Recording this podcast on this mic for the Spotify's and the Apple Podcasts, and I'm recording it on this mic on that camera for YouTube. And this is the first full-length podcast that I'm actually recording specifically for YouTube. So the big challenge for me as I go through all this information is going to be trying to remember to look at the camera, because I'm used to recording these by myself with no camera, and I'm usually just staring at notes or staring into the ether somewhere while I deliver this information. So I'm going to try to look at the camera as I also go through my notes for today's podcast. But if you're listening to this on your headphones on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, what I want you to do is, if you're driving, when you get to where you need to go, before you get out of the car, go ahead and share this to someone. Send the link to someone that you know is into fitness podcasts, or share it to your Instagram story if you want to be extra awesome. If you want to be really, really cool, share it, and then also leave a 5-star review, a 5-star rating, and a review on the Apple Podcast or the Spotify page. All these things go a long, long way. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and leave a comment, subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit the like button. Just let people know that there's some good quality information on here. And if you feel like you're getting zero value out of this, go ahead and tell me that too, so then I can go ahead and make it better and make it something that you feel is worth sharing. Which, for today's episode, I think you're really going to get a ton of value out of it. We're going to be talking about 5 false nutrition beliefs that could potentially be keeping you from losing the weight you want to lose or losing the fat you want to lose. And the reason why I make that distinction is because there is a difference between fat loss and weight loss. And that's something that I think needs to be talked about more. People tend to think that weight loss and fat loss are the same thing. In reality, people actually want fat loss, and their vehicle to gauge whether or not they're losing fat tends to be the scale number. So they associate weight loss with fat loss. The reason why this can be a big mistake is because, just logically, if you think about it, your body is more than body fat. Even if you're someone who's very self-deprecating and feels like, no, I have no muscle on me whatsoever, whatever. You have muscle on your body, whether you work out or not. There is muscle there. You have bones, you have blood, you have water. You have a ton of stuff in your body that's not body fat. So when you lose weight, you don't just lose body fat. When you try to lose weight too quickly, or on some sort of like fad diet or extreme fix, what tends to happen is you lose water weight and you lose lean muscle over time. And that leads to scale weight loss, but doesn't always lead to the fat loss that you're looking for. When you lose just scale weight and you don't lose body fat, what happens is you kind of just become a smaller version of what you already look like. Your body composition doesn't actually change. You don't necessarily look more toned. You don't look leaner. You don't have a better form or fit better into your clothes. You're just kind of a smaller version of what you were before. And a lot of people go into weight loss thinking, well, when I lose the weight, I'll then build muscle, right? They want to just see the scale drop first, and then they want to focus on building muscle. Now, is it the absolute worst way to go about things? I don't think so. I think at the end of the day, if you are losing weight and you're happy, and you're doing it in a sustainable way, and you think, hey, I just need to see 15 pounds down before I think about body composition. I just need to get that first 15 pounds. I get that, but here's my question to you: is how many times have you done that in the past and it's worked for you, to where you've been able to stick to whatever you did to lose the 15 pounds, keep the 15 pounds off, and then also change your body composition? The hurdle that a lot of people run into with this is that they lose the scale weight, they don't actually change the way they look, so then they need to build muscle, but they haven't developed the baseline habits to eat a diet that supports lean muscle, that's high in protein, that's sustainable long term. They don't know how to be flexible with eating out and fitting in alcohol, things like that. And they also just don't have a baseline skill level for strength training. And they also haven't developed a great relationship with the scale. So when they start building muscle, the scale can fluctuate, yada, 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 and then they freak out and they stop the process, or they quit, or they get discouraged. And that's where coaching comes into play, is just coaching people through those fluctuations and through those mindset hurdles. Kind of went off a little bit of a tangent there, but basically my point is, when I say something can prevent you from losing fat, I'm talking about the type of weight that you actually want to lose. and the stuff we're going to talk about today will actually prevent you from losing scale weight and uh, body fat weight if these are the mistakes you're making. And I'll go into why. But just want you to understand that there is a difference between fat loss and weight loss. And if you're just chasing the scale over and over and over again, and you're just trying to see that scale number come down, you are drastically losing or missing the boat on a lot of the benefits you could be getting, not only from a health perspective, but just from a body composition perspective. We all want to lose weight because we actually want to lose fat and look more toned, look leaner, look better in clothes, have better health markers, all that stuff. That comes from body fat loss. Losing lean muscle is actually very bad for your health. You don't want to lose lean muscle. This is why, when people are like terminally ill or they're very, very sick, one of the things, doctors and stuff will talk about is called atrophy. It's when you're like losing lean muscle. When people are very, very sick, they lose lean muscle, and that has a really bad effect on their metabolism, bad effect on their overall health. And that's why, when someone's in the hospital, they're trying to feed you to keep weight on. It's the same thing with a normal, everyday walk around person who's not terminally ill, fortunately. Fortunately, for someone who's not terminally ill, they have to still actively try to keep lean muscle on their body. Sorry, just getting over a little bit of a cold. They have to actively try to keep lean muscle on their body if they want to have optimal metabolism, optimal hormone health, and just optimal health in general. Most people, when they go into a diet, they are not intentionally, but the way they're going about their diet, they're actually actively sacrificing lean muscle, which slows down their metabolism. And then when they go to back to eating the way they were before, or they don't develop sustainable habits and they fall off, they put back on the weight twice as fast as they lost it because they now have less lean muscle and their metabolism has slowed down. So now they're burning less calories per day. So that's a little bit of a background on why you do want to focus on the type of weight that you're losing, not just am I losing weight or not. Very, very important. Very, very just a pillar of the things I talk about with my clients. So first nutrition mistake or false nutrition belief that people have that can also prevent you from losing fat or losing weight in general is thinking that gluten-free is healthy. Gluten-free just means that the food you're eating doesn't have gluten in it. Gluten can be unhealthy for people who are allergic to gluten, but even for those people, gluten is not what determines whether or not they lose or gain weight. Gluten is something that people have an allergic reaction to, so it can cause like inflammation for them where they have like joint pain. It can cause digestive issues, things like that where they just don't feel great. So they have to avoid eating gluten. That is literally the only reason you would have to actively avoid gluten if you have an allergy to it. If you are someone who prefers to eat gluten-free because maybe you don't think it's great for you health-wise, that's up to you. You want to do that, that's totally fine. But the problem is people think that anything that is marketed as healthy means that it's good for weight loss. This is so prevalent across the board. I see it all the time where people will preface something by saying it was gluten-free. So they'll be like, I had gluten-free pizza, or I made these really good gluten-free cookies. It just means it doesn't have gluten in it. It doesn't mean that it's lower calorie than a regular cookie or a regular slice of pizza. So I guess that would be a better title for it, is thinking that gluten-free means low calorie, and it doesn't. And to some of you guys watching or listening to this, you might think that, oh, well, yeah, I knew that. Like, that's the common sense. But for a lot of people, it's not. For some of you guys listening to this, you might be like, well, why is gluten-free not healthier? It's marketed as healthier. I've been told gluten-free is healthier. Yeah, it's healthier for you if you are allergic to gluten. If you're trying to lose weight, eating gluten-free options of things is not going to reduce your calories. And in a lot of cases, those gluten-free options sometimes actually have more calories than a regular version of that. So for example, a gluten-free brownie may have more calories than a regular brownie because they might add extra things to it to make up for the lack of taste from the missing flour or whatever they didn't use to make it gluten-free. or at best, it has like the same calories. And if we have paid attention to pretty much anything I've talked about, or if you're new to the channel or to the podcast and you haven't heard me talk about this before, the main thing that determines whether or not you lose weight is your calorie balance, which is your calories you eat versus the calories you burn. So if you are eating gluten-free versions of foods and the gluten-free versions have the same or more calories than the regular version, you are not going to lose weight that way. You still have to work on your foundations. Your foundations are eating, 3 to 4 balanced meals per day that have a lean protein and a produce at them. 80% of the time, you are paying attention to your total calories and you are paying attention to your total protein. Again, 80 to 90% of the time. The other 10 to 20% of the time, like you want to eat a slice of pizza, eat a slice of pizza. You want to eat a brownie, you want to eat a cookie, go for it. I don't care. But if you're not making those foundational changes and you're just eating gluten-free versions of these highly palatable foods, you are not going to lose weight, and it's really going to hold you back because you are living in like that delusional behavior where you think gluten-free means lower calorie, so you're then overindulging on foods that are equal or higher calories to the ones you're trying to avoid. Not going to lose weight. Really, like, I mean, it's that simple. So how to apply that is, if you are someone who is allergic to gluten, you know that you're allergic to it, then yeah, eat gluten-free versions of things, but still have to fit them in that 10 to 20% of the time. You can't eat gluten-free pizza every day for lunch and be like thinking that you're eating a healthy diet. You're just eating a pizza. It just doesn't have gluten in it. So there has to be more foundational principles in place for your diet to be working. Whether or not there's gluten in it is not going to matter when it comes to weight loss. That's really how it is. Another part of this is that people associate gluten with highly palatable foods, like pizza, like cake. But there's a ton of foods that don't have gluten in it that are also very high calorie, that are easy to overeat on. Things like potato chips or French fries, or even like ice cream. Like, those things don't have gluten in them, and they're very high calorie. So thinking that gluten free means low calorie is very, very misleading. And that's why companies will put this is gluten free on like their ice cream or their potato chips, because then people, again, like we're talking about, these companies are marketing to millions of people. The probability that the average person walking through the store is going to know the stuff I'm talking about is very, very low. So when someone walks by a bag of potato chips and they see one bag of potato chips says gluten free, another bag of potato chips doesn't say gluten free, they're going to grab the gluten free ones because that small little label that says gluten free, they're like, this must be healthier. Not healthier. It's just the same amount of calories, if not more. So again, gluten free does not mean low calorie. Number two, net carbs. So if you ever hear or read the term net carbs on a label, I just want you to know that it's bullshit. It's just a false idea to help with marketing. Essentially, back when like Atkins and the Zone, those diets kind of came out, and they were all about like moderating or controlling or eliminating your carbs, and then keto became very popular. People just became more aware that there was like carbs in food, and carbs became very demonized, which is a whole nother topic, but it's actually pretty crazy. Just that it's gotten so bad to the point where like I talk to I've talked to so many people over the years, but like the average person that I talk to, I would say 8 out of 10 times doesn't know that like fruit is good for them. They just think that it's bad because it has sugar, and sugar is a carb, and they get all uptight about it, right? So companies, what they started doing was they started labeling their food as having only X amount of net carbs. Now, the idea of net carbs is that um, basically you take the dietary fiber in a food and you subtract that from the total carb number, because the theory is that uh, the fiber counteracts the carbs, so that you're only getting a fraction of the carbs that are actually in the food. So for example, if a slice of bread had 20 carbs and 8 grams of fiber, you would subtract 8 from 20 and say this slice of bread only has 12 net carbs. So what a lot of companies will do is they'll market a certain food as low carb, and then it allows them to basically trick you into thinking this is a healthier version. even though low carb does not mean healthy, because carbs are good for you. But again, when food companies are marketing to millions and millions of people, the average person walking through the store doesn't know the stuff that I'm telling you right now. So they just see, oh, low carb or only 4 net carbs, and they go, this must be a healthier option. And I feel genuinely bad for those people. And that's why I put out this free information, because people just aren't educated on that. So when someone makes that decision in that moment, what they are doing is they are actively trying to make a healthier decision to better their life. So I don't fault people for that, because when they see net carb, oh, this only has certain net carbs, or like I said, this says gluten free, they are now making an active decision to try and have a healthier diet. But the problem is the company that's marketing that is now abusing the the trust that this consumer is putting in their company. You're abusing that person's trust, and you're taking advantage by not educating them. And then this person is spending their money buying your food because they're actually trying to make a better decision about their life, and you're fucking tricking them into eating something they think is healthy, and they're not intaking any less calories. So it's pretty shitty when you think about it like that, especially when there's a lot of people out there, myself included, putting out free, valuable information to genuinely try and help people. But then, companies that have a big reach and millions of dollars in marketing, they can slap a label on something, and they can trick that same person into buying something, who's trying to make a healthier choice in their life, and they're just not educated, and they're on this topic. They're educated in general, but they're just not educated on this topic, and they're wondering why they're not losing weight. So sorry, whole tangent there. Didn't mean to get on my soapbox, but anyway, carbs are not bad. You got to stop trying to offset them. Stop trying to hack your way into a low carb diet. Carbs are good for you. You just got to control your total calories, and you got to eat enough protein. If you're doing those two things, you can eat a really large amount of carbs on a daily basis and still lose a ton of body fat and look amazing. And if anything, you'll probably look better than if you're eating a low carb diet, because it's more sustainable. You have more energy, you have better workouts, all that stuff. Second, the whole net carbs doesn't have any effect on total calories. This is super important. The net carb thing has no effect on the total calorie number. So again, if calories are what determine fat loss versus fat gain, what's the point of even putting net carbs if the company knows this has nothing to do with the total calorie number? Again, it's just marketing. It's just trying to get you to buy the thing. If you look at the label, let's say something has, just to educate yourself on this, if something says it has net carbs, go ahead and flip it over, look at the nutrition facts. And if you see where it's listed, like, the carbs, it'll say like, 20 grams of carbs, and then, but net carbs are only 10. What I want you to go ahead and do is look at the total number of calories. And I know this is a lot to do when you're in a store, but again, this is just something to educate yourself. Just do it one time, and I promise you'll never look at the net carb thing the same again. So, fat is 9 calories per gram. Carbs are 4 calories per gram, and protein is 4 calories per gram. So what I want you to do is take the fat grams and multiply by 9. Take the carb grams, multiply by 4. Not the net carb grams, the total carb grams, multiply by 4. And the protein grams multiplied by 4. Add those 3 numbers up, and it'll equal the total number of calories in that serving. Okay? So the total carbs, the total protein, and the total fat equal the calories at the top. If you were to do the same equation, but using the net carbs, the total you would get would not be equal to the number that's on the fucking nutrition label of how many calories are in the food. So it would just show you that the net carb thing is bullshit. So I know that might be a lot of math to do, but again, you only have to do it one time to realize that it's bullshit, and then you have that tool in your tool belt to know when you see net carbs, you know it's bullshit, and you don't just have to believe what I'm saying. Go take something that has net carbs, look at the label, do that quick equation. Take you 15 seconds, and you're like, wow, this label's fucking lying to me. Boom, and you don't ever have to fall for that again. Number 3, thinking that fasting burns more fat. So getting into that whole like intermittent fasting type of behavior, thinking that skipping breakfast puts you into like a fat burning zone. So the the issue I see with this, honestly, the biggest one is just that most people that I meet who are having trouble losing weight, one common behavior that they all have is they're not very hungry in the morning. And when you're not hungry in the morning, that's a good sign that your metabolism is not in a good place. So, not being hungry when you wake up is not a good sign. It is a bad sign. It means that your metabolism is not where you want it to be. Uh, Ideally, as your metabolism ramps up, one of the progress markers I look for with clients is an increase in morning appetite. They wake up hungry. So the reason why I bring that up is because if most people who are having trouble losing weight, if a typical behavior they have is that they skip breakfast and then they tend to overeat when they get home from work, I don't see how fasting would improve that behavior. Now, here's how fasting actually works is if you're someone who tends to eat a lot throughout the day from morning till night and you graze a lot and you snack a lot, for some people, by limiting their eating window, because this is how intermittent fasting works. Intermittent fasting means you're only allowed to eat between an 8 hour window in your day or a 6 hour window in your day. You can choose the structure you want, but for the person who's grazing all day long and just constantly picking at stuff, if they're disciplined and they go, I'm only going to eat from noon to 8 or noon to 6, there's a chance they will cut down on their calories and then lose weight. Here's the thing though, the weight loss is from the calorie reduction. So what the mistake I see people make is they think that fasting in and of itself is what uh, causes fat loss. So they start fasting, but they don't actually change their food choices or their dietary behaviors or their habits, and then they're wondering why they're not losing weight. For example, I'll give you an actual like case study example. I had this one client. She came to me. She was having a lot of trouble losing weight. She actually was saying that she was gaining weight. She didn't understand why. So we as I was on the consult call with her, I asked her what she did. She said she had been intermittent fasting for a year and had not lost any weight. So I said, okay, well, do me a favor, track your food for 4 days or 3 days, whatever it was, and let me look at what you're eating. So she still intermittent fasted and just tracked her food for 3 days. And I saw that she was really just not making good food choices. So it doesn't matter whether you're eating from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. or 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. or 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. It does not matter. If you're overeating calories, you're going to gain body fat. It's just how it is. It doesn't matter if you're fasting or you have an eating window. It just matters about the total calories. So for her, she was skipping breakfast and it was leading to her then thinking, well, I'm doing intermittent fasting. And with intermittent fasting, the marketing behind it is that as long as you eat between these hours, you can eat whatever you want, right? That's the marketing behind it. So she was taking that seriously. Again, abuse of trust here. And she was eating lasagna and Cheetos and Doritos and soda and was just eating these foods, but she was intermittent fasting and she thought that that would make her lose weight. So what we did was we had her stop intermittent fasting. I had her start eating breakfast and had her start focusing on her protein and she lost like 25 pounds in maybe like 4 or 5 months, right? Crazy. She stopped intermittent fasting and started losing weight. She had been intermittent fasting for a year, and then we started eating breakfast and focusing on her habits, and she lost 25 pounds in 5 months or 4 months, whatever it was. So fasting does not put you in some sort of fat burning zone. It's just a tool that some people use to cut down on their calories. Here's the thing that no one tells you who intermittent fasts, right? Everyone who's like preaching an intermittent fasting lifestyle, here's what they don't tell you. Most of those people track their fucking calories. They know how many calories they're eating and they choose to intermittent fast because that helps them keep a calorie deficit. But they're still tracking their protein, they're still tracking how much food they're eating. So it doesn't matter if you eat breakfast or not. What matters is, do you know how many calories you're eating and are you able to control that variable? That's really all that matters. I'm not shitting on intermittent fasting. I think if that's something that works for you and you enjoy doing it, or maybe you just that lifestyle resonates with you, hey man, that's cool. I don't, I think for females, it's not a good idea. Females just have different hormonal responses throughout the day that have to do with how frequently they're eating. I think females intermittent fasting is actually not a good thing. I think for a guy, it's not great, but it's not as detrimental. If you're a female and you're intermittent fasting, it's not great for your hormones. It's not great for your metabolic health. It's not great just for your thyroid, like all the stuff that you want to keep optimal. Intermittent fasting is just not good for it. And one argument that you'll see out there is people will talk about the benefits of fasting that actually don't have to do with fat loss. They're talking about the mental benefits or the digestive benefits or the gut health benefits or things like that. And the funny thing is, all of those benefits actually just come from the calorie restriction, not from the fasting itself. That's the crazy part, is people talk about all these benefits of fasting. What they're talking about is the benefits of calorie control and a healthy diet. If you have a calorie controlled diet and you're eating adequate protein and you're eating mostly whole foods, you're going to improve your gut health, you're going to improve your metabolic health, you're going to improve your hormone health, you're going to improve your brain health, you're going to feel more energy throughout the day. All that stuff across the board is going to happen from just eating a calorie controlled diet that's focused on whole foods and eating enough protein. So when someone is lean and in shape and they're intermittent fasting and they're telling you about all these like health benefits they're getting from fasting, the health benefits are not from fucking fasting. The health benefits they're getting are from keeping low body fat and being active. That's why they're getting those benefits. They just happen to be fasting too, but they're going to feel this. They're going to get the same exact result whether they fast or not. Okay, so you got to stop with the fucking fasting. I'm going to try intermittent fasting for a while, or I'm going to hop on intermittent fasting for a bit and see how it works for me. It's just calorie restriction, right? So if you can restrict your calories without skipping breakfast, that's probably better off for you because it's more sustainable long term. And for most people, I think, especially females, eating a balanced protein-focused breakfast first thing in the morning is going to be very, very beneficial for your overall health. Next, plant-based is healthier. This is another one that is very, very, I guess controversial. People seem to think that, just eating no meat is healthier than eating meat. Now, here's one thing about this. If you choose to be vegan because it aligns with your personal beliefs, if you want to choose to not eat animal products because you don't believe in killing animals, like that's fine. That's cool. I'm all for you doing that, whatever, if that's aligns with your personal beliefs. But to try to say that it's a healthier way of living is false. Now, again, another big part of this is people, whenever they see healthier, they assume it means lower calorie and better for weight loss. And that's just how it is. That's how people see it. So when they see plant-based is healthier, or they're seeing people talk about like not eating meat. Yeah, they may be thinking about heart health or whatever, even though that stuff is false anyway. But they may be thinking like, oh, this could be good for my heart health. But if you get down to the real core of it, people want to look better and feel better. So if you see that something's healthier, most people are going to be like, oh, this is probably good for weight loss. The problem here is that I see that a lot of what I like to call casual vegans or casual vegetarians even, they tend to eat a lot more highly processed, unhealthy foods than people who eat animal products. It's just a behavior that I see. I don't have studies and textbooks to back that up. I'm talking about someone who's been coaching people for a long time now, coming up on almost 10 years. People who are casual vegetarians or casual vegans, meaning they buy into the lifestyle of that, but they don't actually live the life in the sense of, a true like vegetarian or vegan. They're only eating like organic produce and whole grains and like healthy fats and all that stuff. But the casual consumer who, takes on a vegan or vegetarian lifestyle, they just stop eating animal products. That's the only change they make. So what really happens is they drastically reduce their protein intake. So first off, they're already eating low protein probably because they're an average person, and we'll say average American is eating low protein. So they then say, I'm going to be vegan or I'm going to be vegetarian. So they cut out animal products, which is probably the best source of protein you can get. But also for most people, the only protein they're going to get, they fucking cut that out. Boom. So now they're not feeling as full throughout the day, but they have the delusion that they're behaving in a healthier way, right? I'm being vegan, I'm being a vegetarian, this is healthier, this is going to help with weight loss. But they just cut out animal products. So they just stop eating protein. Then they start going for, well, I'm going to eat vegan pizza and vegan bagels and vegan cookies. And I'm going to make this vegetarian pasta dish or this vegan mac and cheese. They start eating all these highly palatable, like high calorie processed foods. And they think they're eating healthier because they're just not eating red meat, when in fact they're eating way more calories than they would be if they had just eaten like a fucking steak or if they had eaten like a piece of salmon. So they have this false belief that they're living a healthier lifestyle that's conducive to weight loss. They're looking up all these like vegan recipes and vegetarian recipes, which you'll notice these recipes are very high in fats and well, mostly fats, not really so much sugar most of the time, but mostly fats. They're just very high in calorie because they got to make it fucking taste good. So there's a ton of oils, coconut oils, avocado oils, which again, just they're not like bad for you inherently, but they have a lot of calories because it's straight fat. So they're jacking up their calories in this meal. They're loading it up with like cheeses and stuff like that to maybe try and get some protein, even though vegans don't eat cheese, but vegetarians do. But for like a vegan, they might just use a vegan cheese. And again, which is very highly processed. During those highly processed foods, they're trying to make this food taste as good as possible because they don't just want to eat vegetables and fruit, right? So they end up over consuming these high calorie meals, vegetarian pizzas and vegan pizzas and pasta dishes and mac and cheese and ravioli and, different sort of waffles and like, vegan waffles or whatever they eat for breakfast. And it's just loading up on calories. And they also like, they're not cutting out alcohol and shit like that too. So they're also drinking wine or, multiple times per week. And they just like genuinely believe that just because they cut out animal products, they're now healthier. And in fact, they're probably way more unhealthy and probably going to have a way harder time losing body fat because they're not getting enough protein, they're overeating processed foods, they're overeating fats, and they don't feel great throughout the day. So if you are someone who is truly aligned, your belief system aligns with not eating animal products, that is totally fine. Totally support that. You just gotta know that you still need to pay attention to your total calories and you still need to pay attention to trying to get adequate protein. So for a vegan or vegetarian, it makes it a little bit harder to get enough protein, but it's not impossible. You can still do it. You just gotta be a little bit more creative with food choices. But plant-based in and of itself is not a healthier way of living, and it's definitely not a lower calorie way of living. And last one is going to be that low carb is best for fat loss. So kind of talking about the net carbs before we kind of got into this a little bit. But for fat loss, you need to be in a calorie deficit, not a carb deficit. In fact, like demonizing carbs is usually what causes you to crave sugar and overindulge when carbs are available. Eating enough carbs to support good workouts and lean muscle is super effective for long-term fat loss and overall diet sustainability. So just to give you a basic breakdown of this, again, it's all about behavior. So most people, when they cut down on carbs, what are they doing? They're not eating just lean meat and vegetables. They are trying to replace that flavor profile with low carb or keto options. So like a keto cookie or a keto protein ball or a keto pizza or whatever fucking weird keto foods they come up with. If you were to just cut out carbs and cut out starches, and that's what you choose to do, and you were to eat like just lean meat and vegetables, then would you get leaner? Yeah, probably. Is it going to be sustainable? Probably not. But at least you're getting enough protein and you're eating vegetables, right? But for most people, what happens is they just cut out carbs. They don't actually start eating enough protein, and then they try to make up for that kind of missing that void in their diet, and they start looking for keto options of foods that are just really high in fat and most times have higher calories than the carb counterparts. So for example, like a keto cookie has more calories than a regular cookie, which is fucking crazy because it's marketed as a weight loss tool and it has more calories than if you just ate a regular fucking cookie. you might as well just eat the regular cookie and fit it into your diet than to eat a keto version where you believe it's healthier, so you're more likely to then overindulge on it. Makes no fucking sense when you have this information. It's just to the average person, they don't know that, so they just believe a keto cookie is healthier. When you're eating enough carbs in a calorie controlled environment with adequate protein, you are going to get really good workouts. When you're getting really good workouts, you are going to get stronger, you're going to recover better, you're going to burn more calories week to week, month over month. So what that means is that while eating this high carb diet, you are building more lean muscle, you're getting better workouts, you're burning more calories. So long term, you're going to be able to sustain fat loss while eating a higher calorie diet. When you drastically reduce carbs, what happens from a performance perspective is you don't get as good of workouts, you don't have as much energy. So you, over time, for most people, especially again for the average person who's not eating enough protein, you just start to burn off lean muscle, you start to get burnt out, you start to get fatigued, you start to not really enjoy working out. So you start putting in less effort in the workouts, and it's more likely that you're going to fall off, and you don't lose the weight you want to lose, and you get very, very frustrated. When you're eating adequate carbs, kind of the reverse happens. You have energy. You're like, wow, I can't believe I'm losing weight eating all these carbs. You have good workouts. You burn more calories over time. All good stuff happens from eating more carbs in your diet. The other thing that happens for the average person is this is just human behavior and stuff that I see just in the field of working with people every day, is they cut out carbs, and they try to eat low carb, and this causes them to then crave sugar more and crave carbs more because your body's depleted. So now you get that high, craving, that high sugar craving feeling. So not only are they being deficient in usually protein, but they're also deficient in carbs. They are now increasing their craving for carbs, which increases the likelihood that they're going to not adhere to their diet. So then they start overeating handfuls of chocolate chips, or they give into that one craving and they go off the rails and they, fall off their diet for a couple of days. Whereas if they were just eating enough carbs at each meal, they wouldn't get those sugar cravings and they'd be more likely to stick to it. So a lot of times, just for this specific one, is when you cut down on carbs, most people then replace that flavor with more fat, and fat has double the amount of calories than carbs per gram. So their calorie intake actually goes up. They start to crave carbs more, so they're less likely to stick to their diet. And when they do get that first taste of like a sugary food, they go overboard with it. Just in short, guys, eat your fucking carbs. Eat carbs at each meal. They're good for you. If you choose to, eat more carbs at certain times of day than others, there's no added fat loss benefit to that. It's just, if that's what you like to do, that's what you like to do. For me, for example, I like eating my carbs kind of evenly spread out throughout the day. But what I find is I eat probably more carbs in the morning and more carbs at night. And then in the middle of the day, I'll kind of eat like, just moderate carbs, just because during the day I don't necessarily need it as much. Whereas with breakfast, I'm fueling for the day and I'm probably going to work out soon. And at dinner, I just don't like to, I don't want to have to sit there and like, pinch pennies over calories. So I try to eat my biggest meals at the beginning and the end of the day. And then throughout the day, I eat more like smaller meals that are easier for me to get down, like in between things, in between appointments or in between work stuff. So just to recap that, 5 false nutrition beliefs that are stopping you from losing weight. 1, it's believing that low carb is best. 2, it's taking on a plant-based lifestyle without knowing, your calories or knowing like your fat content of the foods. So you end up eating more processed foods than you would be if you were eating animal products and you're eating less protein. So again, not a better lifestyle for weight loss. Thinking that fasting burns more fat, again, generally leads to poor behavior. That just leads to overconsumption of calories, which prevents fat loss. Thinking that net carbs is a real thing, again, just leads you to make food choices that you think are healthier, but you're actually not making healthier food choices, which then down the road leads to some sort of overconsumption of calories or just, unsustainable behavior that you can't keep up with. And then thinking that gluten-free is healthy, also thinking that gluten-free is low calorie. If you eat gluten-free because you are allergic to gluten or you just feel like you have a little bit of an intolerance to it, cool. You still got to control calories, and you can't just be eating gluten-free brownies and gluten-free pizza and think you're going to lose weight. So that's how it is. So anyway, guys, I hope you had a ton of value out of this. This actually went way longer than I thought it was going to go, but again, that's because I just want to educate you as much as I possibly can on each topic. If you got value out of this, please go ahead and